In this video, we would be discussing an epic clash happened between Magnus Carlsen versus Maxime from the Champions Chess Tour Crunchy Labs 2024. It's the semi-final and it's the round number 3, so I don't want to waste any further time, so let's start. The first game was won by Magnus and the second game was won by Maxime. And we have the third game, so let's start. So Magnus is playing with the white pieces and he starts the game with 1 e4. c5, we have the Sicilian, bishop to c4. So Magnus got not going for the classical way of playing d4 open Sicilian, but he went for the move bishop to c4, knight to f6, d3, a6, a4. Because black's idea is to play b5. So now we have e6, pretty standard for black because Maxime is a pretty great expert in playing up the Sicilian defense. His idea is to play bishop e7, short castle. So bishop to b3, b6, short castle. So now black's idea is to play bishop e7, keeping maximum flexibility. Bishop b7, rook to e1, simply developing the pieces, not committing any particular piece like not the knight or the bishop. So bishop e7, and now we have the move c3. So Magnus' idea could be to push the pawn to d4, having a nice center. So short castle, and now we have the move knight to d2. So before committing the pawn to d4, Magnus' idea is to first play knight to d2. Maybe the idea could be to simply put the knight to f1, having good square for the knight to either go on g3 or even to e3. So knight to c6, knight to f1, and now we have the move b5. So Maxime slowly and steadily trying to expand on the queen side. We have d4. So Magnus could have also went for capturing the pawn, it's nothing wrong with it. But Magnus decided to keep the tension of the pawn structure and he went for to strike in the center with d4. After d4, we have the move c into d4, a fine move. So now white is having a fine pawn structure in the center. And now we have the move d5 by black. And after e5, you will notice, like after knight to e4, you will notice that it's a kind of a French defense pawn structure where black is having the pawns on e6 and d5 and white is having the pawns on d4 and e5. Yeah, so it's more of like a French defense structure. But I would say a better French defense because usually the knight which is on e4 is usually remains on d7. So basically a better version of French. So after knight to e4, we have knight to g3 by Magnus. And now we have the move knight to b4 by Maxime. So the idea could be maybe to just play rook c8 or just play rook c8, and basically the b4 square is a very good square for the knight because it's a weak square because you can't really play a3 or c3 to attack the knight. So b4 square is a good square for the knight. So ab5, and now we have rook into a8, queen to a8, and now we have h4. So like at this particular glance, the commentators were also saying that the position is around about even, like maybe black's even better because it's easier to play with the black pieces. Like you just need to play rook c8, trying to control of the open c file. You are already having the control of an open a file. So how Magnus is going to react? Magnus played h4. His idea is pretty clear. He wants to play h5, h6, try to create a weak spot at the black's camp. Maxime played h6, which turned out to be a mistake already. He should have played the move rook to c8, which is a very strong move because if white goes for playing h5, there's a very strong move. You can try to pause the video and try to find the move. If you found the move knight into f2, it's the best move. The idea is pretty simple. After king into f2, you want to play knight to d3 check, but you can't because the queen will simply capture it. So you first play rook into c1. This is the whole idea of playing a rook to c8. You attack, you capture the bishop, and now you can't really capture because you lose the queen and the game. So this was the whole idea. Rook c8 would have been much better, but he played h6, which created the hook on h6. Now Magnus simply went in with knight to h5, and now white's idea is to simply play knight h2 via queen g4, threatening some kind of mix. So we have rook c8 by Maxime, bishop e3, developing the final piece, queen to a5, rook to f1. The idea could be to move the knight and even start pushing his f pawn. So queen to d8 by Maxime, idea is to capture the pawn on h4, so g3, and now we have king to h8. A better move would have been to play g6, attacking the knight, and now knight to c6. Let's say knight h2, and after knight to h2, black can already play knight f5, having a good knight on c4, and black is not really having any particular problems in this position, and black is pretty comfortable. But instead, black went king h8, and here white played a knight to h2, queen to g8, and now we have the move king to g8, king to g2, which turned out to be a big mistake. Magnus should have played knight to g4, which would have been a very strong move, because after, for example, queen h7, already f3, and you will realize the knight on e4 is not really having a good square to go anywhere, and white is already having maybe a winning position. So this would have been the best for Magnus, but he went on to miss this, and he played the move king to g2, which gave Maxime the chance to simply turn around the tables. So pause the video and try to find the best move to play with the black pieces, which was found by Maxime in the game. Okay, so this particular move was missed by Magnus Carlsen. He played knight c5. And after knight c5, what's the idea? The whole idea here is, in the game, what happens if he takes, yeah? First of all, if you don't take and if you move the bishop, black would be happy to capture the bishop, just knight a6, the queen is attacked, black is pretty happy, because black is already having the bishop pair. And no particular problems, black is pretty happy. Magnus decides to capture it. Pawn push, it's a check, that's the whole idea. You give a check, and at the same time your idea is to capture the piece on the next move. So king to h3, and now you must be wondering why not king to g1. King g1, there is a problem with d3, and if you try to play queen d7, there is this e into f2 which comes with a check. That's the whole problem. So that was the whole line, so that's why king h3 takes and now queen to d7. Now pawn takes is not really coming with check. So we have e2. Okay, so the rook is attacked, rook e1, and now we have the move bishop to d5. At the first glance, it looks like black is losing the piece, but after bishop d5, if you take, you lose the bishop. If you take the bishop, I'll capture with the knight, and the knight defends the bishop. So yeah, so in the game we had bishop takes, knight takes, and now we have the move b4 by Magnus, which turned out to be the final mistake of the game. Magnus should have simply played queen b5, takes, queen into a2, and this would have most probably turned out to be draw. For now, white is a pawn up, but eventually, because of black's huge amount of activity, it's going to be much easier for black to recapture the pawn, and black is eventually going to draw the game. But Magnus played b4 because he simply missed the move, which is queen to e8, which kind of forces Magnus to trade off the queen. And now you will realize you can't really protect the b4 and the c5 pawn. If you try to protect the b4 pawn via rook b1, black can already make a queen, or black can even capture the pawn. You can't really capture the knight because black can make the queen. So that's the whole idea. Magnus went for capturing the pawn, takes, and now you are not really having a good way to protect the pawn. You push the pawn, I will capture it. You can't play rook c2, I can capture the rook. So that's why Magnus went on to be a pawn down from a pawn up position, or at least a better position. Rook d2, bishop e7, and now both the players were under tremendous time pressure, both the players were having less than 1 minute. And whereas Maxime is playing with his laptop, Magnus is playing with his iPad, and Maxime is playing with his laptop, yeah? So rook to c8, rook b7, b4. The pass pawn is just too strong. We have h5, king f8, Maxime decides to get his king, protect the bishop, and now he's slowly going to make progress. Rook b8, he decided to trade off the rooks, and now Maxime just got his king near the game. And now we have fortress. Knight to a4, check, check, knight to c4, king a3, king a4. The knight at a very good square. So basically the knight has to remain on d2 or c1 in order to stop the pawn, whereas black's pieces are extremely free. Takes, and now we have simply bishop e3. The knight is attacked, the pawn is attacked. Magnus is again going to lose material. So after b3, after g3, g6, fg6, at this particular position, on the move number 459, Magnus decides to resign the game, and we have 2 losses in a row by Magnus, and with this, Maxime won the game. So an epic battle happened between Magnus versus Maxime. In the 4th game, It was a drawish game, but Magnus was able to win that game. So the game went into the tie breaks. But in the tie breaks, Maxime was able to win the game. And Magnus is now nearly at the elimination. He has to play Wesley. And if he beats Wesley, he can go for fighting either of the player, either Firouzja or Maxime. But if Magnus loses against Wesley, he's out of the tournament. So yeah, this was the game. So if you guys loved the game, learned anything new from this video, make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, and make sure to subscribe to our channel if you are new to our channel. I'm going to come up with these interesting videos like this. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching. One shot chess.